See now, you guys are right down here in the screen right there. You want to say hi and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Mercedes.
I'm Gabby.
And where are we from?
I'm from Boston. We just came last
Remember,
night.
the camera's here. You're too high. Scooch down a little bit. There you go. Are you happy that the Red Sox won?
Yes.
I'm not like your dad or anything, but aren't you guys like happy to be here with Titi Maggie and Tio Dano?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it awesome? These are my students. I'm creating a video for them and answering their questions.
Cool.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool? So we're going to have fun today after I get done recording all this stuff?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. You want to say adios?
Adios.
Very good. You guys can go back to the clubhouse now.
Okay. That's so cool.
Isn't that neat? I'll show you later what you look like.
Okay.
Strategy and the internet. We did that one. Okay. Now that you've had your, you met my nieces. I guess I can call them my nieces. Let's continue here. Competing against free. We're back to articles that are not dated. Yay! I'm sure you guys are liking the newer articles better. Are companies with offerings failing behind companies without free offerings? Well, we can certainly say that Microsoft is failing behind. I have a love-hate relationship with this free thing. You know, is it a strategy? Yes. Are companies using it? Yes. In many cases, is it effective? Yes. Is it always effective? No. 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 But what happens is, if you're a company like Google, right, and you're offering Android for free because you're monetizing through another means, you're preventing from Microsoft and many other companies from taking any market share at all because they can't get beyond the free offering. I mean, what does Microsoft offer Nokia? They had to offer him $7 billion in a 4-year marketing agreement, and then eventually they had to buy Nokia, because otherwise they wouldn't have any handset makers taking Windows OS, or what do they call, whatever they call their, because they just could use Google for free. Microsoft grew up in a world where they used to charge everyone $50 for them using their OS. And that's how Microsoft monetized. They did it with operating systems, and they did it with cell phones. You know, way back in the day with Pocket PC cell phones, remember Compaq had them, and a couple companies had them. Microsoft was making like $30 an operating system every time one of those devices were sold. You know, the way Apple survives is Apple has their own OS and their own hardware. So they don't need to cut a deal with anyone. Apple offers the OS free to themselves because they're using the OS as the free in order to sell the hardware. Apple makes all the money off the hardware and not the OS. It's that razor and blades kind of model or mentality. Do you think Microsoft truly does have to worry about Google Drive taking its market? I think Microsoft has to worry about a lot of things. Okay? I think Microsoft is competing in a world in many other consumer markets that they're now competing against company that monetizes off of free, and Microsoft doesn't monetize off of free. And they're going to have to pivot, or they're going to end up losing all their B2C marketplace other than Xbox. They'll lose it all other than Xbox eventually. Not immediately, but eventually. Could Microsoft do what Dell's doing and go pure to B2B services? That's kind of what HP has been retrenching to. That's what Dell's retrenching to. Could Microsoft, I hate to say the word retrench because the B2B marketplace is humongous. They could do very well for themselves there. I mean, Oracle does. It's a bigger company than Microsoft. Could Microsoft be bought by Oracle? Sure, it could be bought by Oracle. Spin off a lot of the ancillary stuff like Xbox and Microsoft is going to have to make some major decisions. I mean, if you think about one of the top 5 companies to follow over the next year, Microsoft's one of those top 5s. No ifs, ands, or buts. Whoever the next CEO is going to be, I hope he or she, it could be a she, is market-oriented. Otherwise, they're in trouble. Deep trouble. There tends to be a catch involved with... Let me make sure I'm recording. Yeah. There tends to be a catch involved with most free products, such as privacy issues. Do you think this will create a ceiling of sorts for the free economy? Yes, there is a catch. There is, in other words, instead of a catch, there's a trade-off. You know, a lot of times you're trading off privacy because the Facebooks of the world and the Googles of the world are monetizing you. You may think that Gmail is free. You may think that Facebook is free. It's free to use, but it's technically not free because you're worth anywhere from, I don't know, $2,000 to $3,000 to as much as $50,000 a year to one of these companies, depending on how much your data is worth and how well you get monetized. So there is a catch. Sometimes the catch is the free version is just so limited that you can only do so much with it. You know, that tends to be a trade-off. That unless you upgrade, you're not going to get all the goodies. But privacy tends to be one of the bigger trade-offs. Is this an example of competing against free, starting online return with Amazon and keep it there? Is this an example of competing against free? Started online return with Amazon. They say keep it, and there's a refund anyway. Well, if you got an online return from Amazon and they let you keep the product and you still got a refund, that's pretty hard to beat. You know, is Best Buy gonna let you do that? Is Kmart gonna let you do that? Yeah, that's an example. Is Walmart gonna let you do that? No. But Zappos might. If you decide to bundle something for free, how significant does free offering need to be? It needs to be significant enough. You need to tell people what's in it for them. That barrier to entry, that barrier to trial, there needs to be something there. I mean, one of the beautiful things about apps is, as long as you have space on your computer, you download it. That's it. We're good. Right? How does free product hold up quality-wise over time? This should be an advantage for the incumbent. But what happens is the free product may be just okay to start, and you get some earlier adopters, and the early adopters help you improve the product over time. I mean, if we look at Google Docs, Google Docs when it first came out was pretty bad. It was a beta, and it was very much a beta. Google Docs right now is at a threshold that it's good enough that a company really could use it. And it has a couple neat features, such as, you know, two people in different locations being able to edit the same document live. You know, if the incumbent stands pat and doesn't see what's happening them around them, then it's a disadvantage. But if the incumbent adjusts and pivots and squashes some of the wonderful features that the free product offers, or the free product doesn't improve the way Google Docs has, you know, Gmail is actually very, very good. And it's free. It used to be a case that Gmail was very janky, you know. Not anymore. The incumbent owns the market. The incumbent owns the market share when a free product comes online. Shouldn't that cause every free product to be a delayed threat? If the incumbent owns all the market share when a free product comes online. So let's talk about Microsoft as the incumbent, and we have Google. Shouldn't the cause for every free product be a delayed threat? I'm going to be honest with you here. I'm not sure what's being asked. I really don't. If this is a question you really want some more probing into, resend me the question and I'll answer to you via email. Is free for free Is free for free a sustainable answer as time goes on? Well, it's not sustainable as time goes on if you can't monetize. And apologies to the class. Twitter will do their IPO in about 2-3 weeks, and I've still not read their S1. Twitter has been free for a very long time. It's going to stay free for as long as I can foresee it. And they still don't have a true business plan in my, I really think they should become an analytics company. And they should monetize on the analytics. Some advertising, but they should not be an advertising only. For instance, they did a big deal with Nielsen, which is the TV company people that they rate the TV programs, who's number one show by Nielsen ratings. Twitter can do a better job of telling you which TV shows are popular than Nielsen ratings could in some instances. They could monetize that, and there's no way Nielsen can get that data without Twitter. So that's, to me, the better whatchamacallit for Twitter. Hit pause for a second. Okay. I'm pretty sure I finished this. Is free sustainable as time goes on? Yes, I finished that. In spite of the abundance of free music, Apple has managed to remain competitive in the music market with consumers purchasing iTunes. Do you think it is because Apple has a closed network that is mostly compatible with competing devices and music stores? Is this one of the reasons for that closed network? Well, there's a lot of things that we could talk about here with this. Again, I'm an Apple geek. The first thing I want to say is Apple actually has struggled a little bit in the last 2 years. All these Spotifys and all these Rhapsodies and all these Pandoras have actually eaten into iTunes a little bit. Now, if iTunes, i.e. people buying music, was Apple's major business, I think they would have reacted more quickly. But really, Apple's making a penny or 2 or 3 cents a song, if that. They don't care about the songs. They care about you buying the device so you can listen to songs. That's what they care about, So that's one aspect of it, Like, if you don't listen to Pandora, they don't make money. If you don't listen to iTunes, Apple still makes tons and tons and tons of money. So, there's some of that there. And first of all, you have to understand that iTunes is not just listening to music. iTunes is also the App Store, where they make 30%. Anytime something is sold in the App Store, they make 30%. Whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, whether it's a rental, whether it's a song, whether it's a piece of software. Yeah. So Apple has a lot more potential to monetize. The last thing I want to say with this is it must have been eating them a little bit, because otherwise with the new OS, we would not have had iTunes Radio if it wasn't a big deal to them. They see the Spotifys and they see the Pandoras of the world. They're a threat enough for them to make changes and create iTunes Radio. And remember, Apple can make iTunes Radio free, basically, where Pandora's free version and not the upgraded version is pretty limited. Apple's free version is not limited at all. It's probably better than Pandora's paid version. But Apple's not monetizing you off of the music. They're monetizing you off of the device, because the only way for you to get all that free stuff is if you have an Apple device. There's no other way. Oh. Is it true that product innovation is the only way a content provider can exploit network effects and the mass ability of free content? Well, I feel very uncomfortable saying it's the only way. There's hardly ever only one way. And a lot of companies have no product information with regards to a physical hardware kind of a product. And most of it is free content and they monetize you any other way. And I have an example here, and I've been saving it. And where am I? Here we go. So this is my email bin. Say hi to my email bin. This is a company on 24, which probably means like 24/7 on. And this, there's all kinds of free content, right? So they get you with a webinar because they want your email address. Here's some inbound thoughts that they're working on. 5 common B2B marketing content myths. And they have speakers. And then they do this, and once you're part of your email, you have a company like, here's Smart Brief. This stuff gets pushed to me. But let's say I'm interested in this story. I click through it from here. I go straight to the Atlantic. Anything that happens on the Atlantic from here, like all these ads, Smart Brief is actually getting a little bit of a cut from the Atlantic because Smart Brief brought the traffic of me to the Atlantic. You know, it's called affiliate marketing programs. If Desert Media is better than Craigslist, why haven't more newspaper media companies established something like it of their own to combat Craigslist and win back customers? Well, Craigslist is the bigger brand. You know, I mean, if you think about newspapers used to monetize off of not subscriptions. That was a revenue stream, but it wasn't the revenue stream. It was advertising. But the display ads were less than a third of their total revenue. It was the classifieds where they made the most money. So stuff for sale, eBay stole that business. Real estate, and eBay and Craigslist stole that business. Real estate, Zillow and Trulia stole that business. You know, the major profit centers for a newspaper got hollowed out. The fact that less people were also reading newspapers doesn't help either. You know, they really should do things like Craigslist or do things that you couldn't do. If a newspaper wants to survive, they need to stop thinking like a newspaper and start thinking like a news organization. If you think like a news organization, your goal is to deliver the news. You deliver the news however you can deliver the news. If you think you're a newspaper company, then you're wedded to the metaphor of printing a paper. No, doesn't work. They should at least copy Craigslist and do a better job with that. Does Yahoo still have more email market share than Google? No, I don't think so. I don't know this for a fact. Yahoo Mail is very, very popular. It's not Gmail. I don't think anything's bigger than Gmail. You could Google that question, but I don't think anything's bigger than Google, to be honest with you. With regards to free services, I bet you Outlook, because of corporate America, is bigger than Google. Nah, maybe not. Maybe not. How does Google monetize all their free offerings beyond advertising? They don't. It's all advertising. If you look at Google's annual report, 90% of all their revenue is advertising. They do a very, very good job with it. It's all advertising. Is there a way for a company like Google to measure if a free offering is helping their bottom line, or should it be discontinued? Well, Google's bottom line is volume, traffic. You get more traffic if it's free. If you get more traffic, you can charge more for advertising, page views. You know, I really, really hate when you go to a website, the top 10 reasons why you should stand on your head in the beginning of the day, and then you have to click for one, click for two, and they're separate pages, is because they want to increase their page views, therefore increase their advertising, how much they could charge for advertising. You know, it's web metrics trickery. Okay, I really like that article, by the way. If any of you are in B2B and you have to do lead generation, this is a very good article, Competing Against Free. What every CEO needs to know about the cloud. What will the cloud computing's effect on big data, and how much value will be added to big data via cloud computing? I think these terms, if we were talking in 2011, these terms were probably more different than not. We're talking about it in 2013, and I think cloud computing and big data are almost the same thing at the moment. Almost the same thing. We're going to read a couple big data articles, not next week, but I believe either the week after or the week after that. And you're going to see how this article foreshadowed in 2011 what's coming. And those big data articles are 2012, 2013 articles. So you'll see a lot of the same language in the thought process, because you can't have big data unless you're doing it in the cloud. There's no way for you to get that much data unless you're getting it through a cloud. Does cloud encourage learning organizations? Wow, what a great question. That's a really good question. And I sure hope so. I sure hope that the amount of information coming through is helping the organization from a interdepartmental, across silo, because we have this much information and it can be shared so freely. I hope that organizations are learning more, sharing more than in the past. I really hope so. And I bet you that is the case, although I don't have any hard data on it. Are companies spending a sufficient amount on IT? I guess. It's a function of the company. There's some companies that are spending a lot. There's no ifs, ands, or buts that, yes, if you don't have strong IT infrastructure these days, you're not going anywhere. Are companies that are currently have the cloud leading the market compared to those companies who don't have it? Yes. I think the companies that are ahead of the curve with the cloud and data infrastructure tend to be the market leaders. Oracle, no question. No ifs, ands, or buts. Amazon is a huge cloud company, by the way. Huge cloud company. Microsoft is developing in their cloud, but I think they're behind the curve with regards to B2B services in the cloud versus HP. The biggest one of them all is IBM. IBM is spectacular. And if you notice, IBM 2 years ago, all their ads were cloud. All their ads this year is big data. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Are there any disadvantages that cloud could affect businesses? Well, I think because they're so new with this, if they're not investing enough in IT and they're not integrating that information enough, then the cloud may not be helpful. It's how well the information comes back to you through the cloud. And you need a lot of IT infrastructure to make that happen. Okay, hold on. I'm going to do a quick pause real quick. Pause. Okay, sorry for the pause. How can CEOs disregard their IT department's opinions when they are hired as their specialist for these type of issues? I sure hope there is a CTO or a CIO, because if there's no chief information or chief technology officer in the corporation, in the C-suite, that when decisions are being made at the highest level and the IT department is not part of the conversation, then that's a problem. That's a problem. That's usually how it happens. CEOs either make decisions without the IT department, or the IT department needs something, and because they don't have the advocacy in the C-suite, it doesn't get there. How secure is the cloud? Can it be hacked into? Well, I don't have facts off the top of my head. We hear all the time that things get hacked. Twitter got hacked this week. President Obama's account got hacked. Syrian something army did it. Is it possible? Yes. Is it more secure than it's ever been? Yes. Is it foolproof? No. No. By renting a cloud vendor solution, are you ceding control of your data to a vendor? How does the vendor now own the data? And if so, the vendor essentially buying a piece of your company. Is it wise to have your technology vendor be part of your own business? You know. Let me tell you a story and see if we can tease some of this out. Netflix, right? Netflix. They are the number one player when it comes to online entertainment, kind of in that space. Do they have enough servers to support? Does Netflix own enough of their own servers? No. Who do you think they rent the majority of their server space from? Amazon. Who's their direct competitor in most of these spaces? Amazon. There's some awful weird relationships that happen because of this. And what happens is that it would be unwise for Netflix to go out and build server infrastructure that they own themselves, not knowing that they have the customers yet. It's better to get the customer acquisition, rent server space, and then gradually over time, after you say, okay, we've already had 20 million customers, and there's no problem, given the people that leave and come back and join, that we're well beyond 20 million customers. Okay, let's buy more server space. But then they get 5 more million customers in the next month. Okay, they're not going to go out and have the time to get all that server space and buy all that equipment that fast, so they rent a lot of it. And renting's cheaper. So is it wise to have your technology vendor as part of your own business? Sometimes you don't have a choice. You know, if you think of like Apple, for instance. Apple had their big iOS update. And there was a time period, over a 24 or 48 hour time period, that 1/3 of all the internet download, the entire internet, was going through Apple servers. You know, Apple, I'm sure, you know, in these high capacity type scenarios. I mean, look at Amazon for Black Friday and around the Christmas holiday season. They need extra capacity. And I don't know if Amazon has to rent server space, but maybe they even have to go to IBM and get some server space, you know. So it's wise depending on volume, and it's wise if you're hedging your bets with you don't know exactly how many customers you're going to have. So you may not have a choice but other than do it. Google, I think they're one of the only companies that don't. Google and Amazon probably are maybe the only two companies that don't need server space from anyone else. Google probably doesn't need server space from anyone else. Maybe IBM probably doesn't need server space from anyone else either. Does a company, in a sense, outsources their IT infrastructure to the cloud? Do they lose any of what makes them unique in the marketplace? No. If consumers don't know, then they don't care. It's just where the data is coming from, you know. And I'm sure, back up to this question here, you know, the server is just that. It's just the ability to serve the data. And I'm sure there's legal contracts that even though Amazon is providing server space for Netflix, that Amazon cannot peer into the data and look to see what people are doing. I guarantee there's big time legal contracts for that. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen as much as it does. Can they get exclusivity on a cloud provider? Well, maybe if you could, you know, it's possible. It depends on how much you need. I guarantee that there's multiple, some big time type scenarios that there's multiple cloud providers. The author states that focus on cost is misguided partially because IT budgets are so small, and fluctuation. I think this is the bigger issue. IT budgets fluctuate more. Will not make a large difference on the income statement. The authors make an assumption that call IT budgets are small. Is this cost valid for companies that make technology seriously? No, I think this author is overstating it a little bit. I think the fluctuation in IT budgets is the bigger issue, which is why you have this buffer of being able to outsource, because when you outsource the server, you don't have to pay the electricity. You don't have to pay the retail rent for that building. And when we talk about electricity, it's not just the electricity to run these things. The bigger cost is the air conditioners to cool them, which is why a lot of these cloud centers are in the middle of nowhere in Iceland with geothermal energy, and it's cold. You just open the damn windows and cool the place. The middle of nowhere Russia, guess what? It's a fantastic place to put servers, because whether the server is in Russia or the server is in North Carolina, for you to ask, Siri's a bad example, for you to do a query, we won't notice the difference. It's milliseconds. Is there a difference? Yes, but it's milliseconds. It's not a second. It's not seconds. It's milliseconds. Okay, another cool article. Tweet me, friend me, make me buy. This article focuses on B2B selling primarily because there's less exemplars in B2B versus B2C. Do you think this would also work in B2C? Of course it would. And it's significantly more common in B2C than it is in B2B. Significantly more. Because in B2C, it's so much easier because there's a very high probability that the person you're tweeting or liking and friendly, the end user, is in fact the buyer. In B2B, that may not be the case. Especially in the beginning of that article, you were talking about the CEO. The CEO is not the user. But the CEO made the transaction happen. Is it possible that clients will be put off by overtures on social media? Yep. Very possible. I like the inbound content marketing strategy better because then it's a self-selection, as opposed to someone telemarketing you, which sometimes that's what Twitter could feel like. Right? Is there a particular business where Twitter is not beneficial? Well, you have to think about what Twitter is. Twitter's main competitive advantage is speed and the now. Something that happened 20 minutes ago is irrelevant in the Twitter universe. So if there's a business that cares more about archive than speed or being current, then Twitter's not as beneficial for you. But in my opinion, if you need to get a message out and immediacy is the most important thing, then you cannot not use Twitter. If immediacy is the correct word. That's the correct word. Are there any companies starting to include social media in their regular training programs? I read some B2B magazines, particularly in the sales area, and I'm starting to see it. What I can't answer is how much time they're spending on social media, the depth of discussion in social media. Are they, if there's 7 days of training, is 4 days of it social media how-to? That I can't answer. But I know it's there. And I know it's a lot more prevalent now than it was 5 years ago. That I can say for a fact. When will social media start playing a bigger role in companies participating in B2B in addition to B2C? It's still going to be very slow for the next 3 to 5 years. And it's mainly because the end user, the end buyer in B2B are not the same person in most cases. The B2B sales process is more complicated. It's a buyer group as opposed to a sole individual, which is why social and B2C work so much better. GE aircraft engines and GE locomotive division, there's only so much social they can do. They can have a technical blog, customer service, learning, training, but Twitter's not useful as much for GE locomotives, GE aircraft engines. Lockheed Martin, what are they going to do with Twitter? How do you convince companies to see social media as more than just a necessary nuisance? Well, go back to the Michael Porter article. If you can make a strategic reason to why social is operationalizing your strategy, then it's not a nuisance. It's a need. If customer service is a key goal for you and immediacy is not, you're crazy. Customer service is a key goal for you and immediacy is part of that equation, how can you not use Twitter? How can you not use a software package like Trax that as soon as someone complains about something on Twitter, anyone, not people you're following, anyone, that you'll know within 10 seconds of it being tweeted. 10 seconds, you get an alert. You can respond to it in 2 minutes or less. 90 seconds. 90 seconds after someone tweets something bad about something, you can intervene and be started the conversation to see if you can start compensating for that failure. That's a big deal. Why aren't more companies using social media? Answer, it's because they don't know how. They're not thinking like Michael Porter article and thinking about social media as just a context. That's it. That's the answer. It sounds as simple as that, and I know I keep repeating it, but if that is the main goal you get out of this class the whole semester, I'm good, because that means you're already 2 steps ahead of everyone else around you. Most people think about social media, they think it's some weird entity, they don't understand it, they're not familiar with it, and they get weirded out. And they get all caught up in hashtags and all like that, and they're like, and that's not really what we should be doing. We should be talking strategy. A strategy, for example, would be, I want to retain more of my existing customers. Well, in order for that to happen, you need a better relationship with your existing customers. Well, wouldn't social media tools such as a blog or an email listserv, constant contact, something, couldn't that help solve that problem? Yes, it could. You guys, by taking my class and being brainwashed by Dr. Dano, are going to be 2 steps ahead of everyone else around you pretty much in social. Not everyone, because there's some techies out there that are really, really good. But on average, the average bell curve, you're going to be ahead of the curve. No ifs, ands, or buts. Why isn't the risk of being hacked discussed? Isn't this an issue we have seen in companies recently? Yes. Most of these articles, there are HBR articles and Sloan Management Review articles about hacking and hacking culture and all like that thing. It's not a focus of the class. I apologize. Does it happen? Yes. Is it a big deal? Yes. You need strategies to prevent it. But I'm more in a marketing mode and us trying to figure out how we use social media in a strategic sense, and there's only so much hacking that I can talk about. How does the fact that only 5% are using it show that it may be that it won't hold up at some point? This is just flat out demographics. You're going to have, right now I have freshmen. Every freshman, I made them raise their hand the other day in class. 2 out of maybe 5 or 6 out of the 50 of them had a LinkedIn account. By the time my juniors and seniors in college right now, like 9 out of 10 of them have a LinkedIn account. They're going to be prospecting with LinkedIn before they graduate. These are people that grew up in LinkedIn that are going to go into some kind of a B2B career, and they're going to use LinkedIn for prospecting. It won't be 5% 5 years from now. It'll be 50%. Is there any reason why it's taking so long for firms to catch up with this? I think I've answered this question. It's out of their comfort level. Once they start hiring more young, once it becomes more of a topic point in the Business Week and all like that, because most of the business press still tends to talk about B2C and not B2B, and that's starting to change. We're literally since mid to late 2012 into now, 2013, we've seen much more of a B2B discussion. We're seeing more of it. There doesn't seem to be a limit to the amount of the company can be solved in the marketing selling online. There doesn't seem to be a limit to the amount of the company that can be involved in the marketing and selling online. Could that present problems moving forward? Salespeople might start to feel pinched if they have their toes stepped on. when I'm hearing this, and I'm not sure, and I would love for this person to email me and have this discussion further. But when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking about it from a salesperson's perspective and time and territory management. If you think about a farmer rep has a 3-digit zip code that they can't go out of their zip code. We know that I have a lot of friends that work in sales, and they have a state, or they have a region, or they have the East Coast, and that's their territory, and it would be, not cool for them to start selling in one of their own salesperson's territories. This is an issue with social. So that's something that has to be negotiated or worked out. Could you follow the people that are only in your territory? Perhaps. Sometimes instead of having geographic territories, you might have an industry sector. If that's the case, then it's a little easier to deal with. You're like, okay, you have the airline industry. Okay, you have the locomotive industry. Okay, you have all small electronic device industry. Okay, then you can follow the people in that industry, and geography is not important. The other way I would look at this question is time. Oh my gosh. A salesperson needs to be out there selling. How much time can you be prospecting and doing all this stuff on social? And what happens is that you really need to be moving towards a sales team. And you have an inside sales team with time and, an inside sales team that helps with this. And information gets pushed from the inside sales team to the sales people. Whoever had this question, if that didn't answer your question, shoot me another email and I'll see if I can be helpful there. But that's the way I read it. Are companies equipped to handle such a change in their sales departments? What new positions might start to arise that they make the switch? I think I just answered that. It has to be a sales team. Okay? It has to be a sales team. It can't be the lone wolf anymore. I'm looking for something. Hold that. Okay? What if your prospects will use social media to learn about you, but they don't want to be contacted via social media? Well, you can go on the LinkedIn and you could scout someone out. And so what if someone sends you a message? That doesn't mean you have to respond to it. You can do a Google search. You can go to a blog. You can do a lot of things to learn about you, but that doesn't mean it's reciprocal. There's nothing wrong with that. It happens pretty much on a daily basis. In terms of giving without expecting anything in return, do you think that microblogging is the most effective way to generate contacts and to stay connected to core customers? I don't think microblogging is the most effective way. And the reason why I don't think microblogging is the most effective way is because microblogging is fantastic about immediacy, but is not fantastic about history. So, with that regard, unless you're using Twitter along with a complicated program such as Radiant6, Hootsuite, or Trax to be able to track someone individually. I mean, within Twitter, we can do Twitter lists, but Twitter lists are not all that robust that you can say, okay, these 5 people, I have a list of, To think about it this way, you go on Twitter and you see someone and they have 150,000 followers and they're following 75,000 people. How the hell do you follow 75,000 people? You don't. You follow 150 of those 75,000 people, and you create a small list within Twitter, and all the other 75,000 people, they're in your stream, but you ignore your stream, and you only look at your Twitter list. And if someone within the stream tries to contact you directly, there's an the Dan O'Laddick, and then you pay attention to that. Otherwise, you ignore everything else in Twitter because it's not relevant. Only the people that you really have in your small list are relevant. So, previously in the semester, we read an article that referenced that most social media users were trying to avoid advertising. With that being the case, how would a sales rep communicate with potential buyers? Well, it's not advertising is what a sales rep should do. A sales rep should be offering free content, knowledge. This is the free part again. which is exactly what... Where was that other one? Here it is. If I just go into my Divide folder, there's millions of these things. Let's just see. Tuesday, last week. Here's one. This one's more teaching oriented, but free. The flipped classroom. Sign up. Da-da-da-da. Professor, who's being offered in this? Well, who's offering it? McGraw-Hill Education. McGraw-Hill Education is one of the largest textbook suppliers. They eventually want me to start buying textbooks from McGraw-Hill, but they want me to learn about this and how and I guarantee this guy's going to talk about McGraw-Hill online products in the process of creating the flipped classroom. So I get knowledge for free, but at the same time, there's a indirect sales pitch. That's how you do it. Last set of questions. Do you really want to be in eBay? I thought I would get more out of this article. Maybe you guys didn't like it as much as I thought you did. Either way, here we go. How does a smaller startup company determine whether multi-platform or reseller model is for them? Really, it comes down to resources. They may not be able to do a multi-platform. Because they don't have the resources, they don't have the people, they don't have the codes, they don't have the servers, they don't have, any of that. It tends to be easier to just go to the App Store and sell your stuff at the Google Play Store and the iTunes Store. Done. Some people may want to set up their own e-commerce site. Some people might want to just sell through Amazon and eBay, and that's it. That's it. It depends. Depends on what kind of resources you have. Can demand be controlled if one person buys as much of the product as possible and resells them higher than it's worth? Well, yes. This is Econ 101, supply and demand, and if you control all the supply, you can have monopoly-type network effects or market effects. In this day and age, what product do you have the resources to buy all of it or the majority of it? And what product, whatever you're buying, that if you don't move it fast enough, new product comes out too fast and changes happen too much in product classes. So what would you want to buy right now and hoard that doesn't change or get better by some competitor 6 months from now? Digital products, this is not possible. The strategy is not possible. The article says it's a mistake to assume all resellers are subject to disruption. Is this really correct? Aren't all companies vulnerable to disruption these days? Yes, but if you go back to Porter's 5 Forces article, it's actually pretty difficult for a competitor come in to replicate what Amazon's doing. There are network effects that Amazon has that are not easily replicated. It's harder to disrupt, an incumbent in that regard. But if there's no network effects, then it's easier for someone to come in and disrupt. So I would agree that all companies are vulnerable, but some companies have more vulnerabilities than others. Would you consider tech companies that run cloud services having multi-sided platforms? Well, they tend to be more multi-sided if they're running the cloud. I wouldn't say exclusively, but if we look at Instagram is not multi-sided, yet they run on a cloud. But Amazon's multi-sided, eBay's multi-sided. Is it true that some online companies are not succeeding because it does not give the customer as much of an experience as eBay's less multi-sided than I would call it? Let me take that back. Is it true that some online companies are not succeeding because they do not give the customer as much of an experience as an in-store purchase would? You need to tell people what's in it for them. If there's nothing in it for them, they're not going to be interested. The online experience could be just the cheapest price you possibly can get. If that's enough of a value proposition, people will do it. Most of the time, it could be the case that the in-store doesn't have the selection you want. So then the online experience would be better. For me in books, I love going to Barnes & Noble, but 50% of the books that I want, you can't get in Barnes & Noble. So there's only so much I can do there. But I love going to the store. You know, it's cool. I like browsing. With our other article talking about the free economy, when will eBay start competing with some of these specialized marketplaces to not to charge a portion of the sale? I don't know. eBay's been struggling this for a long time with how much free that they can do, because that is their main monetization revenue generation. I mean, they would have to change their entire model. They don't have enough page views for advertising to be it. They don't have the warehouse and shipping logistics skills infrastructure to be able to start buying their own product and being a reseller themselves. Remember, they have no warehouses. They're not Amazon. eBay does not have a warehouse. All they do is connect a buyer and a seller electronically. What I am disappointed in eBay is they have yet to monetize any of the metrics. You know, eBay has a treasure trove of data. eBay Analytics is spectacular, and they don't monetize that. You know, they could be, if they dropped all listing fees or made it a flat fee like 10 cents or 25 cents, you know, you have to think about, they could change their terms, you know, and I'm sure they've run experiments. You know, let's say in a given day, eBay has 100 auctions, and eBay doesn't make any money unless an actual purchase happens. So out of those 100 auctions, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's something. Let's say 75% of them don't go through. A lot of those get relisted again, but they only make money on the 25 that actually made a transaction. What if eBay charged everyone a real small, but every time you list something, it's 25 cents? I wonder what that number would be. And therefore, they would always make 25 cents. And then they could monetize off the analytics. I don't know. I like eBay. I play around with eBay. I sell stuff on eBay every now and then. But eBay has not really grown. They grew exponentially for about 5 or 8 years. But when Meg left in 2003-4, the writing was on the wall. They're not growing the way they used to grow. Okay, class. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Watch this when you get a chance.